You won't believe what happens next, but this detective Oliver certainly knocked Poirot off his feet. His gaze zeroed in on a toy bunny in the corner, and Poirot suddenly realized this toy had never left Alicia's room. Is it a runaway bunny? They quickly grilled the castle owner, Raina, and she looked completely baffled. Why was her daughter's toy on a field trip? She claimed that during the incident, she and the butler were joyfully enjoying music until the tree shattered the piece. Poirot and Raina headed to the rooftop, once a secret garden for mother and daughter, but now just a deserted wasteland. Since her daughter's death, it became nature's playground, and Poirot confirmed there were no attraction clues here. Poirot suddenly shifted gears to discuss the medium. How did Raina, a famous dancer, get mixed up with wizards? Raina claimed she received a letter from the medium's wife, to which Poirot replied, "Sounds like a distant love story." The stranger's letter was initially a snooze fest, but when she saw the salutation, she was utterly floored. Because the letter used her daughter's name, Spasia, Poirot began to suspect that this deceased medium held some hidden secrets. Later, Poirot went to the kitchen and got the same exciting answer from the butler as Raina. Suddenly, he stopped, looking around like he had just sneezed, which made the butler next to him as jumpy as if he'd just had a cup of coffee. Seeing her so frightened, Poirot figured this woman might have been part of the late-night celebration, but got nothing useful out of her. The detective duo found the doctor in charge of examining the body, and he gave a decidedly unsurprising conclusion. It looked like an accident. But Poirot thought this doctor was clearly unprofessional, as he overlooked the obvious bruise and the medium's wrist. How unprofessional! When Poirot pointed out the oversight, the doctor suddenly went off like a loose cannon, tossing the chair with thunderous force. Thankfully, the sun's shout from upstairs pulled him back to reality, and Poirot realized this was a classic post-war trauma show. The doctor admitted that after returning from the battlefield, he became highly tense and relied on alcohol to soothe his nerves, and Raina hired him purely out of old friendship. Just then, Poirot suddenly heard that eerie singing again and thought to himself, is it a hallucination or do I need to get my eyes checked? He decided to separate the mysterious siblings for questioning, and the results were evidently soon fruitful, as their passports turned out to be a comedy act. They hailed from Hungary and lost all their family in the war, becoming orphan agents, and a year ago the medium found them. The medium hired them for various supernatural performances, and the sister just wanted to save enough money to bring her brother to America for a happy life. Unfortunately, Poirot's keen eye caught on that she might have fiddled with the medium's pay. What an unexpected scoop. The medium threatened to expose them, and during tonight's séance, the sister decisively took matters into her own hands to solve the problem. The girl suddenly dashed toward the door but tripped over the butler's outstretched leg. The sister, enthusiastically chatting, admitted she merely casually took the money, but didn't. She said to ask the doctor's son. At the time of the incident, the siblings were in the kitchen enjoying a feast with them. Just then, Poirot suddenly dashed off to the bathroom in a hurry, because the eerie singing echoed in his ears again. He planned to try to jolt himself awake, but looked up to see a horrifying sight he had never seen in his life. A little girl appeared in the mirror. He quickly turned, but saw no one. Deciding to burst out for answers, he bumped into the doctor's son like a spring statue waiting by the door. This precocious boy calmly confirmed the siblings' story. At the time of the incident, they were indeed in the kitchen, posing no possibility for committing the crime. Just then, a deafening crash suddenly erupted, chillingly startling everyone. They all held their breath as the sound came from the basement. Poirot followed the sound's lead to an ancient mural, and suddenly horrifying patterns appeared in the corner. Even more shocking, the wall bore ominous inscriptions, for bones and wishes. Poirot's bodyguard was left speechless. The scene before them made both gentlemen gasp. The place was piled high with old children's toys had the legends turned real. The crash was evidently from a boat hitting a pillar in the river outside, with the storm making the water swift, truly heart-racing. Meanwhile, the doctor above, deeply wired and tense, became so agitated that he seemed ready to create a hole in the ground with his rants. Thankfully, his son comforted him constantly, otherwise trouble would ensue. Upon returning to the hole, Poirot had the bodyguard free the siblings to avoid their becoming sacrifices. After all, the doctor's son had confirmed the siblings' innocence, so Poirot decided to house the emotionally unstable doctor in the music room for a rest. This place was almost cut off from the world, allowing him some quiet while not affecting others, so Raina locked the door tight. After dealing with all this, Poirot realized that the murder case needed further investigation. Only one suspect remained on the list: Alicia's ex-boyfriend. Maxim's narrative, however, was completely different from what Raina had said, leaving Poirot truly shocked. She even tried to prove that she still deeply loved Alicia by showcasing a photo that had been torn in half, a passionate breakout. However, in his excitement, Maxim accidentally cut his finger, and Oliver chimed in, "Honey helps with bleeding, you know." Maxim tried to smear the garden honey on his wound and even tasted it, saying, "Is this really weird?" Then Poirot turned his attention to the invitation letter in Maxim's hand. Oh, this letter was a bit special. First, the invitation bore no signature, and all the text was printed with the typewriter. Most importantly, when Poirot carefully examined the text, he discovered the hidden message, Apple. It seemed that everything happening tonight, including Maxim's appearance, was a setup with intent. Just when Oliver thought he finally found the truth, Poirot summoned the bodyguard and looked sternly at the two. He told them he knew all about the sneaky little games behind the scenes. It turned out this was all part of a long-planned conspiracy.